kinakataka may kipulisi manibuar siya wag ka na lilubal sabang mawe no nabigarap na pala.
I remember just one time really that we went diving and I was holding the fish, what you would call the fish string. Yeah, fish string. Yeah, just me and him. Yeah. I think there's so many things that I can think about, but I think one of the main things that my dad taught me was hard work. He was a hard worker, and he showed it by example, and very disciplined in what he does and what he did, and hard work. He really taught me about hard work, and taught me a lot about our protocol, our culture. He taught me a lot about respect as well. Respect your elders, and I think that was one of the biggest things that he showed by example as well, is to respect your elders, respect who they are, and respect the village, respect people. Yeah, those are the few things that he taught me, and just his love for the Lord too, really stood out to me as well. Because once he gave his life to Jesus, that was it. He lived by example. He lived his faith by example. And that was my dad. That's true. That is probably one of memories that probably I'll never forget. Dad and I, we got saved the same night at home. And I remember it was a Tuesday night at about 7 o'clock. One of our youth pastors was staying with us, and he was going through the Romans Road, and towards the end he challenged us, and both my dad and I, we gave our lives to the Lord. So I think it has been about, if I'm right, maybe 31 or 32 years now that I've been a Christian. So yeah, that was my dad. We gave our lives together on the same night. I think one of the things that probably that he faced, that people are not facing anymore now, is just the whole how do I say, the structure of daily lives. These days it's so easy to go around. You have vehicles, you have transport, and things like that. But before that, it was all, there was nothing, right? So they have to walk long distance. There was no machines or things like that. Everything was done by hand. Yeah, probably that is one of the biggest things. It's just the whole structure of life, that he faced, and that people are probably don't have to do or don't have to face that at this point in their lives. And I think he has laid also a foundation of how protocol is done. We don't have to go over things again and again and again, because he has laid that foundation. He went through that, and he showed us how to do it, and what to be done. So and that was my dad. I think what he really want to be remembered by is keep your faith, the whole thing about faith and serving Jesus. It was a common thing that people was telling me when they asked him about church and things like that, and he said, just love the Lord, and I think that's one thing that he want to be remembered by. It's just the love for the Lord. And secondly, he wants people to remember him by how he knows his culture. And he knows his culture, he knows his protocol, he knows the channel to follow when it comes to protocol. And he was the first, if I remember right, he was one of the first farmers in Vanuatu, in Siangaga, to receive the Farmers Award in 1987, if I'm right. Yeah. So I think, if I'm right, his favorite food was probably dalo and roro. Yeah, he would just love that, and anything that was probably prepared. But I think that was his favorite. That was his favorite. Yeah, and cooking dalo leaves, roro, and even in the family, he was the one that always cooks it, because when he cooks it, it was never itchy. And everybody else cook it was itchy, but yeah. So I just love simple food and things like that. So yeah, that was my dad. He has a favorite group that they're called Waka Kitavua. That when they play that song in the radio, you can just hear him singing away. He was probably the happiest when he was out on his field, out in his plantation, and walking in the sun and the heat, and that was him. He was just so happy. Yeah, that's the flip side of the coin for that. I remember one time we had a gathering here. I don't know, I'm not sure if it was a funeral or something, and one of his first cousin did a protocol. And that was actually the first time that he, doing protocol, that he blew it. He didn't accept the protocol, and he took the mat and the whale's tooth and he threw it aside and he said, "This is not how you do it." Yeah, that was the first time, and he said, "I'm not receiving your protocol. I'm not receiving your whale's tooth. I'm not receiving your mats, because this is not the proper way you should do it. You come in the right channel, then I'll accept what you guys need to do." My dad, he was a military man, and he was very strict. Another thing that makes him really mad when, my brother and I will be sleeping in on the weekends, he would come and literally just chase us outside and say, "Come on, get up. Time to walk." He gets really mad when he sees people just doing nothing. To him, that's maybe resting or something, but to him, that's just laziness. I think it makes him really mad. When it's whether it'll be planting root crops, sugarcane, any other thing, doing building or something like that. He was a chief steward in our circuit here, and people still remember that he was always in the front, leading people, taking people, whether it'll be budget time or things like that. He'll be leading walk crews, to cut sugarcane so that they can pay the budget for the circuit, and that was the only year that we actually paid our debt in the circuit, and I'm not sure about now, but that was the time when he was the chief steward, and I think that's something that people will remember. My dad. Yeah, I was just asking my mom actually yesterday, and his favorite scripture was John 3:16. "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life." And I believe my dad is there. He's enjoying heaven. When he was, getting weak and everything like that, and you could just hear him praying in his room, singing in his room, singing hymns, praying. I think one of the things when I think about Pooh right away was just his military uniform and his way of training. When I was growing up, I would hear him at 4:30, with his military uniform and everything at home, and he would be running up and down the hill, with a long stick, pretending that was his gun. So he would run with his stick, pretending that was his gun. He'll be running up and down. That was at the farm, the hill, and he'd be running around the house, our house, and it was 4:30. He'll be doing that pretty much every day, and So, yeah, that's one of the things that stood out to me with his military uniform. Yeah, he served in the military for quite a few years, actually. My dad went to what you call the Malayan campaign. I think it was from 1953 to 56.
News from Suva, the capital of the Fiji Islands, provides a story of remarkable loyalty and courage. Nothing less than the offer to send troops to Malaya. Of the men, who are mostly farmers making a living from their sugar and banana crops, 1 in every 12 between the ages of 20 and 30 has volunteered. Leaving their homesteads and plantations far behind, they'll be taking part in the grim struggle in the jungle against communist bandits.
And they went to Singapore and Malaysia. Yeah. There's so many memories, so many stories about that as well. And the other thing that just comes straight to when I think about Pooh is just the whole thing about farming. Always, like with his bullocks and his plow, just plowing the land away. Yeah. Over the years, our relationship had really changed. And there was such a deep respect, between for my dad. And years go by, we were able to just sit down and talk together, and really just talk about life, talk about things, that a father in our culture, a father and a son that usually don't do. We just sit for hours and visit and talk, and I would consider my dad too as a friend, and I think there was one thing that I've said, probably one of the last things that I would have said, and I'd probably say thank you, Dad, for for raising me to be the person and to be the man who I am today. And secondly, I think one of the things that I would really like to say to him is that, Dad, I love you. Yeah, I wish I could have just said one more time, I love you. I'm just thinking, yeah, I think it's just natural for us to go that grieving moment, right? Grieving time. But deep within me, I actually have peace, that I know that Dad is with Jesus, and it's just a goodbye here, but really, see you later.